Any kid, preteen, teenager of the late 90s can tell you that the Blair Witch was ridiculously huge. I mean, that thing was everywhere. Because it wasn't the first found footage. I did learn there was something else that was very similar recently, because there was an anniversary podcast for the Blair Witch. And I think it was the Movie Crypt was interviewing the director. And they said if they had known that this existed or seen it, they wouldn't have made Blair Witch. But I want to talk about Blair Witch in the sense that what it captivated in your imagination, and the idea of presenting things and letting your mind fill in the blanks. Now, I think there's greatness to that. Blair Witch was something that was really interesting when I was, like I said, I was 14 when it came out. And I remember watching it. It's definitely something you would want to watch with speakers. And the marketing was amazing. And it built this mythology and this lore. And then they do the sequel. And I thought the idea for the sequel, The Book of Shadows, which should have been called The Book of Shadows in the first place, was intelligent to a point. The idea that you have these group of people who are making money off the film in the sense of selling merch and tours and playing up the idea of this film kind of made the town, it made up its own lore. Everything is made up and we're going to make money off it, but then weird stuff starts really happening. Thought that was intelligent. Like, what if it wasn't all made up? You know, and it had it could have played a little bit with more of the meta context of this franchise, of what if, you know, they could have had the directors as themselves or something, and it could have been what is this, and oh my god, this really did happen. But it wasn't what we were told in the film. Like, it was different, and it got lost in its way. It had some unique parts to it, you know, about a tour that goes out in the woods and it goes wrong, and it's like they're being hunted and possessed by an evil spirit, and it got a little cliche-ish, but it had an idea, and I gotta give it that, for not doing the same thing, but trying to move this franchise forward. There was talk of doing other movies and things over time. Then eventually we got a film called Blair Witch. Which I've watched twice. And, you know, as of this recording, we are in spooky season. I have no idea when this will drop. But Blair Witch itself was interesting because it was a return to found footage, and it was about someone going after to find their lost sibling. And the thing with that one was it was creepy. There's one part in it that completely freaked me and caught me off guard. Good on them for that. But they're like, now we're like in a time loop dilation where they're stuck. And they find the house and all of this. And then they see this creature that I don't know if it was supposed to be the witch, or it's like, looks like their limbs were stretched out, what kind of monster. But it almost gives off the feeling that it's aliens. And there's shots in it where you're like, with lights and things, I was like, okay, is this supposed to be aliens as the Blair Witch or something? Like, I don't know. So that's what we have, right? Now, I know that these kind of concepts have been talked about, and I really just kind of want to bring them back around and talk about, because in the original film, there's a talk about the Rustin Parr who killed the kids and was told to, you know, had the kids wait in the corner, and he was being told, let's tell his story. Let's make it this really nice town farmer guy that everybody loves, who starts hearing voices. And now we're back to playing with it. Is there really a witch? Or was it a person who was wrongfully persecuted who was made to be the Blair Witch? You know, and in this vehicle, they can you can explore, like, Rustin, like, is losing his mind. Well, is he really crazy? Like, or is there a supernatural force? And we can play with that in the sense of, is it real? Is it not real? And as much as I don't like the idea of this psycho killing children, that's what happened. And, it's all about presentation. But it's the Burkittsville 7 where he's taking these kids and he hears the witch's voice. And I think it would be amazing if you could play around with it, where he sees a figure, okay, flat out. We show you the witch or an entity or a spirit or something in the shadows that he's hearing. We hear the whispers from the voice later as the film progresses and it gets stronger and he's giving into it. But we are never actually given the idea for certain as we experience this through other characters if this is really happening or all in his head. And I think that is a true sense of horror and dread. And then you have, like I said, Rustin. Through this, we can do some cool stuff. Like, he starts reading history of the town. And he's trying to figure out who the witch is and what her story is. And you could even have it, he's reading these history books, and we hear the whisper, and then we have, like, flashbacks to things that happened, and we see the woman who was, quote-unquote, the Blair Witch. And when the town changed its name from Blair to Burkittsville. And once again, there could be an inciting incident that happens early in the film where it's one of those, not that, like, it's too obvious, like he hits his head or he falls or whatever. If anyone remembers, there was a John Travolta film, I think it was produced by Disney, in the 90s called Phenomena, and he has these powers or whatever. But really what you come to see is he sees this bright light that later is revealed that he has a tumor growing in his brain. And the tumor was pushing on it, and that's what caused him to see the bright light. Something like that, where, like, he sees a light, and that's kind of the incident where all of a sudden he starts hearing these voices. Or, something subtle to where we're really playing with the audience's expectations of what is real and what isn't. And as the film progresses, he's unraveling and becoming crazy. And, we get the classic scene of him having the kids stand in the corner, and it's really chilling and haunting. And then he gets arrested and is supposed to go to trial, and you could have him murdered at the end. Like, he dies trying to escape or against the cops, but he starts yelling about hearing the witch made him do it, or he's in jail, the witch made him do it, or he kills himself or something at the end where they find him hanging in the corner of his cell or something. And he wrote some things in blood on the wall, things like that, to bring closure to this story and the film. But the idea that this person who used to be someone that the town loved and was a active community member revealed the secret that he was stealing and snatching children. So I just feel like, they created this lore that was great, because I am big on lore and origins, backstory, that having something set, I think it was set in the 50s or the 60s, that time of supposed innocence, it also gives that Stephen Kingish vibe, right? Because a lot of his stuff, when it was written, that's what he referenced back to, which was his childhood. So yeah, the Burkittsville 7 and the history of the Blair Witch kind of thing. Could be cool. That would probably end up nowadays being like a HBO original or something. I don't know if you'd have something like that in theaters, but it definitely feels like it would work.